Welcome to Anything Goes. I'm Madison, your 5-wing 4 host.
And I'm Kaden, your 9-wing 1 host.
Okay. And today's episode is all about ones. But before we get into that, let's do our little announcement stuff. So we do have a Twitter and an email account. The Twitter is @anythinggoes. Same way it's spelled here. And the email is @anythinggoes@gmail.com. So feel free to email us and tweet at us. We would love to hear back from you.
Also, we are now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So go check us out. Any of those cool spots, whichever is most convenient for you.
Mm-hmm. Couple disclaimers. We are not safe for work. We do cuss, and we're definitely going to discuss sex this episode because I just remembered part of our wrap up. We're very gay. I'm bisexual.
And I'm technically straight.
He's trans, so started out as a lesbian, now we're here.
Yeah, exactly. We've done no formal training.
Mm-hmm. We are in no way professional Enneagram people. Though one day I would love to go to some professional trainings.
You're gonna learn it all.
I do.
Drink
it's
the
5
Kool-Aid, join the Achazo cult, and buy that $500 book.
Oh, I was looking at it. They actually have scholarships, so might join a cult just to get that book for free and then dip out. You're not impressed, are you?
Oh.
Okay.
Concerned. Let's kick it off with our weekly answer to that question. As of now, we don't have any responses to share yet, but
I do.
You do?
I have my boyfriend.
Oh, he sent some stuff in? Okay, cool.
He didn't send stuff in. He just talked to me after.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does he have to say about it?
Okay. Well,
oh, wait. Should we say
first,
what it is?
Yeah. So last week, our question was, are threes good poker players? So, I think threes are good poker players. At first, KJ had no opinion, but then I told him that I'm pretty sure Jack off of 30 Rock is a 3. And this is why I think that threes are good poker players, is because Jack is obsessed with poker.
Mm-hmm.
And he's super good, and it's an entire episode long of him trying to break Kenneth. And he finally does at the end of the episode, and he's so proud of himself. But yeah, so I think threes are good poker players.
I'm going to say I don't think threes are actually super good poker players, but I think they'll make themselves be good poker players if they think that that's something they need to be good at, you know?
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
So they're not actually good at hiding their feelings, but to become good at poker, maybe.
Okay, I can see that, yeah.
What I do think, though, is that ones are good poker players. So that's how it leads into this episode.
Let me think.
I
tend to take my dad to the cleaners, though, when it comes to poker. And my dad's a 1, and my dad's a hard 1.
I just feel like ones put themselves under so much stress that you could put them in a poker environment and it'd be like nothing. You know? I go play poker and I instantly go to 6 and just am anxious the entire time. But ones will never be more anxious than they make themselves.
5s in general might be good poker players.
5s
that
might be good.
Yeah.
I've never played poker with my father. I played a lot of other games with him. He's very good at board games in general. Okay. Food for thought.
Food for thought, yes. Okay, so let's go into some basics of the type 1. They are the reformer. their basic fear and desire is that they are bad, or that there's some personal deficit that they have, and their basic desire is to be good. Their paths of growth and stress are, they go to 7 in growth and 4 in stress. And we covered all of this in our last episode, but now we're going to start to get into like some new stuff. So their intelligence center. Intelligence center. They are in the body and anger intelligence center. Yeah.
So how that all works is the sort of most basic instinctual reaction for ones is to get angry. But it's interesting because ones are so afraid of not being good enough. They will be absolutely furious and be like, I'm not mad. But the way I like to think about it in terms of intelligence centers, because there are 3 of them, and what happens is that the 3, 6, and 9 are all the centers of their intelligence center. I don't know if I worded that right.
Basically, so yeah.
They are the most removed from that, right? So I'm a 9. I'm the most removed from my anger, even though I react to anger. We'll get into that later. And then on either side, you have someone who is external and someone who is internal. So the 8, which is the other anger intelligence center number, goes external with their anger, right? So when the 8 gets angry, it goes out into the world, into their environment, right? But when the 1 gets angry, they bring it inside themselves. And so a lot of that anger, even though you'll see it on the outside and how they react, they'll become super rigid, super uptight. A lot of that is being directed inward, and they're really using it to punish themselves for whatever they think their moral failings are.
Yep. Which I think this is a nice lead in to our next section, which is the passions and the virtues. So a brief little explanation of what those are. One part of Ichazo's theory, which he was one of the founders of, I guess how we currently understand the Enneagram, was that there was certain things that are in our animal nature that keep us from being grounded, in our centers. And a quote from the Enneagram Institute is, "The passions and ego fixations represent the ways that spiritual qualities become contracted into ego state." And I will have a link to this in our show notes. These passions are based around the 7 deadly sins, with fear and deceit being added in to reach the 9 distinct numbers. Each type also has a virtue. The virtues are interpreted in different ways. Some see them as the antidote to your passion, and others view them as your essence and tied to your entire being. These are the best traits that your type has, and the more you grow, the more you will naturally embody these traits. So brief disclaimer, neither of us is religious. Yeah, we're not really Christian. Yeah. So the more you explore these and you dive in, the more you're going to find more Christian and religious stuff. Except when I went and I researched these quite a bit more, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Heurtz. It's the Heu.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Christoper Huertz.
Heurtz. Something like that.
Yes, the Sacred Enneagram book. Isn't that right? Okay.
Yes, there was a website that I read about them, and I liked his explanation the best because it wasn't very religious, and it wasn't. There wasn't any. I feel like reading some of the other stuff, there's kind of judgment around what your passion is, and there just wasn't really any judgment on it.
Maybe
like he just kind of was like, this just is. And so basically the way he did it is that he kind of broke it down into 3 parts, almost like 3 intelligence centers. So he broke it into carnal hunger, emotional ache, and existential restlessness. So like the carnal hunger is the 891, emotional ache is 234, and existential restlessness is the 567. But each one of them kind of combine. I'll link this once again in the show notes. So like one's carnal hunger is exasperation. Their emotional ache is indignation, and their existential restlessness is irritation. And so all of those combine.
Is that tied up then with their lines of integration and disintegration?
Not that I read. I think I need to get his book and read deeper into it for me to get that far. But it was basically that they kind of combine. And so when they combine, you get the one's passion, which is anger. And it's less, he didn't describe it as anger. He was like, I don't really like that. He described it as resentment. And he kind of like, there are common, like we said, the 7 deadly sins around that. He didn't really like it being like grouped together like that.
Well, it's just so easily misinterpreted.
Yeah. So it's not, he was like, it's not really a sin and it's not really a moral failing. It's just something that each number kind of struggles with a little bit. And he said that ones struggle mainly with resentment, and that has kind of had the name anger put onto it. But it's anger as a result of built up resentment of never being able to be perfect or find perfection. And so here I have a little blurb. For many ones, the anger they experience is ironically located in feeling misunderstood, that their passion isn't merely unfathomable rage. It is better explicated as the exhausting exasperation carried in their bodies when amalgamated with an emotional state of indignation. One's idealism begins to fade and turns in on themselves, creating deep and even sometimes somatic pain. Having repressed their head center, the obscuring of this exasperated indignation leads to persistent mental irritability or irritation, expressed through fussiness and frustration, sometimes coming out as anger, but that only as a representation of what they are truly experiencing in their bodies. And so that goes back to his it's the overlap. It starts with that exasperation, and you get the emotional ache of indignation, and then it comes out in irritation, and those all kind of combine.
So can you explain to me though the repressing their head center? Is that like, okay, I'm 1, I see something that really frustrates me, and I don't really think through why I'm frustrated about it, so I go to my emotional state, which makes me even more frustrated, and then it just sort of feeds on itself.
So I didn't really read much into this, as far as them repressing their head center, but
well, it makes sense because they integrate to 7, and 7 is in the head center.
Yeah, they said something. There was a blurb of something about how they feel their emotions, but what they want to do is they want to intellectualize and analyze them almost like a 5 would. But the thing is, they're not actually they're feeling them instead of actually analyzing them when they think that they're analyzing them. Almost like the exact opposite of a 5. Where a 5 is like, I'm absolutely feeling. Yeah. Whereas a 5 is like, oh, I'm absolutely feeling my emotions, and no, we're not. We're just not. So it's the exact opposite, and they kind of repress that head center because they're in their body and tied to their emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's hard because, like, you can't really get inside other people. So when you talk about things like, oh, you need to think through the consequences of your actions, or you need to feel what you're going to feel in the moment, you don't really know what those things are until you actually experience them. And so ones think that they're experiencing thinking through consequences, but really they're just reacting emotionally.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, their virtue, as in like the antithesis of their passion, which the website I was reading did not go into virtues at all. So I have no idea what Heurtz. I'm just gonna stick with Heurtz because I think it's Heurtz.
We'll
just
spell it in the comments or something.
Yeah. He didn't really get into this at all on that website, but their virtue is serenity. As like the antithesis of anger. And so when they find their virtue and start, so this was another thing. He was like, we never really like move away from our passion. Like it's always there. Like it's, so like depending on which theories you kind of pay attention to, when you move away from it, they kind of loosen up their, how do I want to put this? Their inner critic, they kind of loosen up with it. And so instead of feeling the need to be perfect, they can start relaxing into being okay with imperfection. And then even further, when you hit like the highest level of like enlightenment or health or whatever it is, you start finding joy in the imperfection and not just, okay, this can be imperfect.
Makes sense.
But yeah, they're honestly, I couldn't find very much on the virtues.
My take on the virtues is just like they're virtues because once you like fix yourself, you can then start fixing other people, right? Which I think is a big thing that the ones just, I mean, we all struggle with it, but like ones in particular are so hard on themselves. But like when you, I don't want to say like overcome your anger because it doesn't go away. You learn how to live with it.
I think it's when you start embracing it instead of like pushing it down. Like you're like, oh, I'm angry now. And like accepting that.
I don't think it's even that for once though. I think it's I'm angry, but my anger. Okay, so say for example, you're one and you feel very strongly about the way that things should be done. So maybe you're, I'm going to use an example. My sister is a one. She's been in like work environments like a few years ago now, where the sort of routine of it she felt was way too laid back, way too lackadaisical. People weren't getting stuff done that she thought they should get done. And it was really frustrating for her, right? And so then that was stressing her out even more on top of all of the extra work she's putting on herself to pick up the slack, right? And you can see how that kind of spirals out of control. But when that anger turns into serenity, you say, is this something that I really need to be concerned about? Like, you start to understand that people can have other ways of doing things and start to get like almost a judgment piecing apart which battles you should fight and which ones you shouldn't, because ones are so passionate about everything, and it's really great and it's really invigorating, but it also burns them out.
I also think it might come down a little bit more to determining like what is your inner critic versus what is like actual, because I was reading a bunch of things where it was like ones often like their blind spot is their inner critic. Because what happens is they think that everyone else has just as strong of an inner critic. And
they
so
don't
when
understand relativity.
Yeah.
Not
And
really.
so when they express what their inner critic is saying to you, oftentimes their inner critic is being harsher to them, and that's the same standards they're holding themselves to. And it can come off as kind of mean sometimes. But it's just, it's their inner critic driving them towards unattainable standards.
That is the next line.
Yeah.
How perfectly you've tied it in.
I know. I did that.
I know. Shall we move on to strengths?
Yes.
Okay.
So ones are driven and dedicated. And you have a sister who's a one, so maybe you can...
I do.
What are her strengths?
Yeah. Like, if you need someone to get something done and to get something done right, I know that threes are associated with doing, but ones are actually very active when they're motivated by their sort of ideals around it. They can be very, like, passionate but articulate at the same time. And the way that they operate and move can sometimes make you feel like you're not doing enough, but other times it's also like, thank God I have that person in my corner, right? So I think overall, especially once ones learn how to relax themselves a little bit, learn how to go to 7 and enjoy life and have fun, and you see that playful side come out of them, it's being around them is like invigorating.
That's very nice. I only have my dad to kind of draw on, and as far as strengths go, I think their inner critic is a little bit of their strength. I'm gonna throw this out there. I have not seen that in most writing.
I totally agree, though.
But like, I don't know, my dad, if he felt that something was morally right, it did not matter the cost to him. It didn't matter at all. He would do it just because it was right. And I think that's that strong inner critic,
I think on the base of it, this is the whole thing with the passions and the virtues, right? Is that really our greatest strengths are also our greatest weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
Like, anything taken too far in any direction becomes a liability, and can become harmful. But when you take it and you sort of tamper it and hone it, that becomes a really great skill.
All right.
I'm moving on to the fun stuff.
Yeah. We have a fun stuff section in our what would you call this? An outline, I guess?
I guess it's an outline with numbers and bullet points and small paragraphs.
So, we were reading this one online magazine article, I guess, and it was what are the best sex positions for each Enneagram number. And so the best sex position for ones was reverse cowgirl. I don't really know if I agree with that. Let me see. I'm gonna pull up the article.
I'm trying to think of, like, okay, this is gonna sound weird. The frame of reference I'm using for this is my Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Okay. Weird turn, but all right.
Well, because my character is a 7 and had a thing with an Enneagram 1. And I'm trying to think about that and, like, what that looks like.
Well, first of all, I think honestly this is a little... Well, this one was geared towards women when we were reading it, which I feel like isn't... Yeah, it's a little straight. So type 1, the reformer, this is what the article says. It's from Elite Daily, and I will link it in our show notes. The reformer loves to excel and prove themselves by meeting set expectations. As a result, they will likely love reverse cowgirl because it's hot and semi-challenging. Type 1s blossom when they're given a task to complete, and they live to show up and show out. And I'm sorry, but like for a dude, like he's just laying there during reverse cowgirl. He's getting a view, you know? It's not even the best view. I mean, unless you have a thing for butts, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
So I don't agree with this one. I don't. Let me see. So I think that type 1s, okay, so I have dated a type 1 before. And I'm trying to think. I think that the best position for a type 1 would be any position in which safe words are being clearly set and clearly used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they want just a little bit of danger, but not too much, you know?
Yeah.
Like they dabble into that 7, but they can't let go.
But yeah, every person with a 1 or a 1 wing that I've been with had very deep concerns about whether or not they were going to physically hurt me.
They must be so scared all the time.
So my 1X was like legitimately scared. Like going to a therapist to like get over some of that fear. So I think that safe words make a 1 loosen up a little bit.
I will also say though, I have a feeling that this is going to vary depending on like their background
gender.
And gender. Because I don't think women are going to be as concerned with like safe words, I'm hurting you, because that's just when you're a woman having sex, I don't think that you are as concerned with hurting other people as being hurt. You know?
Yeah.
Your priorities are socially how the sexual scripts play out different. I don't know. If you're a 1 and you're comfortable telling us, let us know. Shoot us an email. Create a burner account so it doesn't have to be tied to your name. And you have to go like to 4.
I'm going to get a text from Shayla after this.
You have thoughts about what dogs types are. I don't know anything about dogs.
I went through some of our old like notes and I found one that was like what each type is as a dog. And so I had types 1 as a Jack Russell Terriers because so one of my neighbors had a Jack Russell Terrier and he like first of all they're very little, but he had that problem like that all little dogs do where they think that they're bigger than they are.
They're really big and they try to fight big dogs and then they get hurt and they're like, I expected that.
And he would stand at the end of his owner's driveway and just guard the perimeter. And it's like you can't you're not protecting anyone, honey. But he took guarding the perimeter as serious as a dog can take guarding the perimeter. And so I was thinking back and I was thinking, you know, most Jack Russell Terriers I've met are like that and they bring to mind type 1. So I think type 1s are Jack Russell Terriers.
Nice.
So memes of the week. I found one. Did you find any?
I haven't found any. I think I really like maxed out my meme potential in the first episode when I meme typed everyone, but I'm really trying to like build back up the steam to have more meme literacy. But see, the problem is, you know, I might be in my early 20s, but I'm definitely a prematurely middle-aged man. Inside, I'm pushing 45 here. I have to get 9 hours of sleep a night. So no memes for me.
I just have one, and it's this cat looking at a waffle, and the cat's got like a really like happy kind of face on it, and it's like when something goes the way a one wanted, like exactly the way they wanted it. I thought that was a very good one. It's not a very common meme out there though, but yeah. All right, so our wrap. Listen, we actually made it to 31 minutes this time, so we're gonna be very close.
Are we in the business of giving advice to people on how to live their lives, or are we just gonna let that be?
Let what be?
Just let it be. You know, are we gonna say like ones? Here are some tips and tricks, or are we just gonna be like, you know what, live your fucking life?
I don't think we're qualified to give tips.
You know what? That's legit. I respect that. Ones, live your fucking life.
Yeah.
There we go.
I mean, I might give some tips to other fives because, like, I am a 5, and I've definitely crossed some, you know, like I've made some progress as a 5, you know.
I have that one wing.
Oh,
it
do you have?
Getting me.
Do you have any advice to your one wing?
Any advice to the one wing folks? Like actually listen to people. I think that is by far the biggest thing. And I know you're really good at it because you guys are good at everything. But yeah, don't just listen and hear like what you think they're saying, but actually listen and hear what they're saying. Maybe that's a general tip advice for like everyone in daily life.
I don't know if a 2 with a one wing needs that though. I don't know.
See, I think that what the 1 does to me, like when I get in my 1, is I know exactly what I want the answer to be, and I'm not gonna stop until that's the answer. You know. And even if, what was it? I didn't even like have a fight, but I was talking with my girlfriend the other night about Minnesota. She's from Minnesota. She enjoys the state. There are certain things that she doesn't like. She doesn't like having to drive in the snow. I, on the other hand, am not from Minnesota, but I'm currently stuck here and don't like it at all for a lot of different reasons. But it's stupid things like, oh, well, since I don't like Minnesota, Minnesota is a bad place and no one else should like Minnesota. And like I could hear my brain. I don't know, I can't hear your brain. But like in my brain I could tell like when she was talking about the parts that she liked about Minnesota, I was like, okay, yeah. And I was like collecting an argument to counter every single point. And I'm gonna blame that on the 1 in me. I fully am. If you are a 1 and you feel that way, I feel with you.
Is that a one wing thing, or could that be a 9 thing? Like, did you express it?
No, I did express it.
Okay.
I did. I said, like, yeah, no, I don't like Minnesota, and I kind of feel like arguing about it, but also it's really stupid, so I'm not going to. Because there's absolutely no point. Like, it doesn't change anything, you know? And it, like, won't even make me feel better to do that. It'll just make me feel worse. But anyways, I don't know. Is that a 1 thing? Ones. Let us know. Do you also compile a counter argument in your brain whenever someone is talking to you?
I wonder. Okay, so my partner is a 2 wing 1, and I wonder if they ever do that. I need to ask them now. I'm gonna have to do some research, pick my partner's brain a little bit.
All right. Question.
I'll be like, did you
look? Your turn.
Question of the. Let's see. Question of the week. Let's ask one for the 2s for next week.
Ooh, yes.
2s, are you cat or dog people?
Oh, that's a good one.
because I have a theory about this based on all of the 2s that I know.
I also have a theory.
So 2s, are you a cat or a dog person? All right.
That's a good one.
So, once again, we do have a Twitter account and we do have a Gmail account. Twitter is @anythinggoes and the Gmail is @anythinggoes@gmail.com. Please send us any of your thoughts on the episode, any, just anything you want to say. If you want to answer the question of the week, we do want feedback from that. I'm having to hunt for it a little bit.
Need to track down 2s.
You can now leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And so thank you to Shayla, who already left us a review. As of right now, we are a 5-star podcast. Thank you, Shayla.
Nowhere to go but down. I love it. Setting us up.
Yeah. But yeah, so leave us a review. I'm pretty sure you can now leave generalized comments about our podcast. The only way we're gonna see them on individual episodes, I think, is if you leave the comment on like the YouTube channel per YouTube video, because I don't think you can leave comments on individual episodes for Apple Podcasts, can you?
I have no idea how technology works. I told you I'm a middle-aged man.
Okay. But yeah, if you know how it works, feel free to do that.
Please do.
But then also send us an email with instructions on how to see said comment. As of right now, we're not.
Send us, if you're 2, send us photos of your pet.
Oh, yes.
As proof of if you are a cat or dog person. Or, scenario. You're a cat person or a dog person, but you have the other pet because of your spouse.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.